English Premier League, the La Liga, the Serie A, Bundesliga, and Ligue to finish it all up. And hopefully you're going to find some winners because it's been a good run and hopefully going to close the year out on a good note. And as always, we'll start where the money is, and that is in the English Premier League, where Newcastle hosts Liverpool. Easy for me to say. Newcastle currently a 1.25 goal underdog, and they've been crushing me lately, I got to say. They win each match 1-0. Their goals are unexpected, undeserved, or and sometimes they even add some other goals on afterwards. But this is going to be a real test for Newcastle, who've been playing so well, have a lot of confidence, which is good for an underdog, and the crowd will be nuts at home. But Liverpool, even coming off Champions League midweek, they are the best team in the league right now, probably in the world. Would put them as a favorite on a neutral field to Man City, and I think I feel pretty good to stand by that. With that said, I'm an underdog player. I don't think that Newcastle are good enough for me to want to play them. I do think that they're going to get a great crowd reaction despite being mid-table. They have some people are dreaming about European places. I don't think that's realistic, but fading Liverpool is really not something I want to do. I did it this midweek with Villarreal, and they were a money-making machine for a long time, but ultimately, I don't think that this will be one on my card. Next on the list is Aston Villa hosting Norwich. Currently, Villa a 1.25 goal favorite, similar line, but this time the home team is a favorite. Norwich, in a really good situation last week, were a disaster. They were embarrassing. Their defense has been really bad all year. Their offense has been non-existent, but they had started to play a little bit better towards the end. And I think, unfortunately, the worst side, the heavily favored to be relegated and finish bottom in the league, that all looks like it's coming true. Aston Villa is certainly no prom queen on the other side. They've struggled to score goals for a while and have been in a pretty big lull ever since Steven Gerrard took over. It looked really good for a little bit. They added a bunch of players, bought Philippe Coutinho in, but then their ship has hit the ground. But ultimately, I don't think that Norwich are a side that I want to back here. Getting more than a goal is, of course, something I'm interested in because I like underdogs, but Norwich have shown that they're really flawed. They are going to really struggle to score goals here, and they're starting to, I mean, if they're not relegated already, I think they all know they will be, but they're going to have to start pushing for wins, and they were in really good shape, playing really well last weekend, and once that first goal went in, because they weren't able to clear their lines, then it got really ugly and they made some big mistakes. And I feel like that's only going to happen more and more as they're trying to push to win. Next, we'll go to Wolves hosting Brighton. Currently, Wolves at Pick'em. I guess both are Pick'em. A little more juice on the Wolves side, though. Neither of these teams can score goals really efficiently. If there's ever a 0-0 in this league, this feels like one of them. Over-under is 2, and that probably speaks a lot to that. Brighton with a 2-0 lead at halftime or right before halftime, their last match, and choked that one up. Whether it was deserved 2-0, I'll say it was not. But Wolves with losing to Burnley, not great. Neither of these teams are playing well. Neither are very good. They're going to play a lot of defense here. But so I guess if someone moves to a quarter goal underdog based on a lineup missing some players or something like that, that'd be interesting. But then again, you're probably betting on backups in that scenario, and it probably closes pick'em. So there's probably not much more for me to say. Watford then hosting Burnley, another pick'em. Watford have been really bad. They look like they're going down. Burnley have been playing really well lately despite losing Sean Dyche. I would hope to back Burnley as an underdog here, but that didn't seem realistic. But I'm pretty surprised to see Watford with a little bit more of the juice at pick'em right now. If Burnley moves to an underdog, I will probably play them, but I doubt that will happen. Next is Southampton hosting Crystal Palace. Currently, Southampton a quarter goal favorite, but all the juice on Palace. This one might fall to pick'em as well. It might just be a weekend of pick'em matches, which is, I mean, a good sign and shows a competitive league. But I don't know that these are a lot of the more interesting matches. I feel like the other leagues have to have something that's more interesting. Crystal Palace, I've been struggling to get them right for years now. Southampton with a good comeback. But they're going to have to be scoring goals here based on this current number that they have to win the match, or at least you win half your bet, half your stake if you take Crystal Palace plus a quarter. For that reason, I lean to them, though their offense on the road is really non-existent. I mean, 0-0 here also works for a slight win on the road underdog if it does hold at a quarter of a goal. I'm not sure that it will. I feel like it will fall to pick them. So it might be one of those, if you're going to play Palace, you might want to do it tonight. It's going to be hard to do without checking lineups and all those sort of things, which I'm going to need to do as soon as I finish this podcast. But I guess I'll just put Crystal Palace as a lean and move on to the next nightcap in England. And that's Leeds hosting Manchester City. Leeds currently a 1.5 goal underdog with all the juice on City. So maybe this is climbing to 1.75. City have been playing really well because they're one of the best teams in the world, one of the best two. It seems pretty clear. They scored at will against Real Madrid in the midweek, but were pretty disappointing, I felt, defensively. And really, I don't know why it's still even a tie that's still alive. Man City should have put that one to bed early, but they were unable to because their defense was a little bit all over the place. And Joao Cancelo, excuse me, I don't want to pronounce it like the Brits do. Cancelo missing was a big deal because he was suspended. And then Kyle Walker's been out, and that showed a lot more cracks in the Man City defense than I think a lot of us expected, or certainly the way odds makers did. Because if they scored 4-0 or 4 goals, I never would have expected Real Madrid to cover midweek. Anyway, Leeds are not Real Madrid. They have real problems themselves scoring goals. Their defense is all over the place. They are playing a much smarter, more intelligent brand of football under Jesse Marsch, which is kind of surprising as he's an American. Everyone calls or makes references to Apple TV shows, but they're not paying me, so I'm not going to advertise. I guess I lean Leeds as an underdog at home with what should be a pretty good crowd. And I do have questions about Man City's offense. They've answered certainly a bunch of those in the last few matches. And really, it looks like City just needs to win every match, and then Liverpool can't catch them. They don't really have to worry about it being a title race, though those nerves will creep in every second longer that Leeds are tied, and certainly if they took a lead. Moving to Sunday, Tottenham hosting Leicester. Currently, Tottenham a 1.25 goal favorite, and that's based on Leicester playing Roma midweek, and likely because they don't have a lot to play for in the Premier League, they're going to be resting their players and really focused on the Europa Conference League because that's a trophy and that's meaningful. Tottenham's goal scoring has been all over the place. They're either really, really hot or really cold. It's been cold of late. I would expect them to bounce back, but I expected them and laid off Brentford last weekend because I was a little worried about Tottenham putting it back into gear. It's hard for me to believe in that, though. I don't know how I can back Leicester at 1.25 because we've seen what their reserve defense looks like, and that's why they've done so poorly in the Premier League and sit mid-table or even bottom half, is because their backup defenders were so bad. They somehow survived Europa Conference League because they were playing teams from small nations like Romania, but ultimately, I guess I like Leicester getting more than a goal because I like the idea of fading Tottenham. But they're going for it. They're going to have their best players out there. I don't know that the Antonio Conte rumors to PSG are really going to distract too much. So I think that's one of those I probably should look away from, though getting more than a goal is always of interest. Everton then hosting Chelsea. Currently, Everton a 3/4 goal underdog at home. Chelsea with a pretty lackluster performance midweek against Manchester United. They have the FA Cup at the end of the season to focus on, so there might be doing a little bit more resting than they normally would if they were in a race or trying to catch somebody or something. They're pretty safe in the Champions League, not guaranteed, but looks almost to that level. Meanwhile, Everton are in panic mode. They're going to have an awesome crowd behind them. The crowd has really bought into Everton, I think, because they know they're in such dire straits. But entering this match, I think it's 35 in the relegation zone is very scary. And is a real threat, clearly, because they could go down if the season ended today. Now, in terms of this match, getting 3/4 of goal at home, that's a number that certainly is of interest to me. I think if it climbs to the full +1, that would be more interesting, clearly, because you get that safety and that insurance goal. Chelsea have been playing so poorly, but I don't know that Everton can really cause Chelsea a lot of problems. I think a point at home to Chelsea is probably a good result for Everton and makes me think that that's what they play for, which will then put Chelsea on the front foot and likely attacking the whole time. So I think you really want that +1 on Everton to consider playing them. I don't think that'll get there based on how important +1 is in soccer, and they're playing at home in front of a huge crowd on Sunday. But we'll see. If it gets there, I'll take it a little bit more seriously. Until then, I'm not that interested, but I am looking to be against Chelsea as much as possible down the stretch, especially as a big favorite and one on the road. West Ham then hosting Arsenal, coming off a loss midweek to Eintracht Frankfurt at home, and that puts them in big trouble for the Europa League, which seems to be their aim to try to qualify to Champions League by winning that competition. They're currently a 3/4 goal underdog at home to Arsenal with all the juice right now. Maybe this falls to a half, but I feel like it probably sticks here. Arsenal have been up and down, and I think that's something that happens with a young team. But they've been really inconsistent for years. I don't really see that changing too much. West Ham, they've shown that they are a pretty good defense. They can score on set pieces, and they really want to kind of muck up games and make you play at their pace with their physicality and their big guys, because they have a really tall group of center defensive midfielders and also center backs. I think Arsenal are going to try to space this match out and try to really use their pace, their speed, and really try to test the West Ham legs. I'm worried about the West Ham lineup not being good enough in this one. And I don't, I mean, they do have some aims to finish higher in the English Premier League table to try to qualify for Europe that way. But I think they're really kind of going all out for Europa League so they can get a Champions League berth. So I'm pretty worried about the West Ham lineup, and I don't think you can play anything until you see what that looks like on Sunday. Moving to Monday, we have Manchester United hosting Brentford. Currently, Manchester United a 3/4 goal favorite. A little bit more of the juice, but it seems like that's where it's going to sit for now. Brentford have been playing awesome. I got to say, I mean, they've been great. They've turned around their season. Christian Eriksen's been a huge help. They're going to stymie Manchester United, who haven't really created anything, and in their wins, they're just getting bailed out by Cristiano Ronaldo anyway. Who knows what his availability is coming off a match on Thursday. So I'm pretty interested in backing Brentford as a 3/4 goal underdog. I doubt it'll climb to 1, but that will be even more interesting. Moving to La Liga, we have Saturday, really early morning match here in Dallas, Texas, but I'll watch it at some point. Alaves currently a 1/4 goal underdog at home to Villarreal. Villarreal with the midweek match against Liverpool, and that 2-0 loss means they're still in the tie, but they're going to have to win at least by 2 at home. It's possible, and that's probably what they were hoping for. I think they wanted to escape with a draw. Certainly a win would have been nice, but I think a draw was really what they were shooting for. 1-0 would have been nice and would have covered the spread, but they couldn't even get that. Pretty tough couple-minute stretch in the 50s right after the halftime whistle brought everyone out again. And I guess Unai Emery has kind of really put the La Liga on the back burner and has really shot for Champions League. It's worked out really well for him, for the name of the club, and I'm sure selling a bunch of memorabilia and all that sort of stuff, merchandise, all that sort of stuff, and it matters in this sport as much as any other. But I do think they're going to rotate pretty significantly. Alaves have been in big trouble, are sitting at, I think they're bottom of the table in La Liga without having the standings in front of me. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. The number suggests maybe it gets to a 1/2 goal underdog at home, and I expect Alaves to really try to deny or nullify Villarreal as much as they can. Villarreal is talented. Their backups are decent. They have limitations up front because Gerard Moreno has been hurt. I don't know that he'll be back for this one, because I think if anything, they'll save him for Champions League based on that being their what they're going for, because they can't make Champions League in La Liga. Essentially, I think they might already be clinched, and it's too far away from them. But realistically, it's not possible. So I would expect Villarreal to be rotating significantly here. That still could mean they win this match. But Alaves, I mean, so tough to back them, because Joselu is a great attacking player that I think will be at Sevilla next year. But he doesn't have any help, and the rest of the team is really, they're going to sit behind the ball and try to get a draw at home. But the problem is where they sit in the table, they probably need wins to get their way out. Cadiz getting a point today at Sevilla was a big deal. And I think that's a big problem for Alaves. So, I mean, lean to the home dog, especially if their road favorite is not going to play their best players. But it's going to have to get probably I'm going to have to feel really good about it tomorrow, and I don't feel that way now. Real Madrid then hosting Espanyol, coming off Man City midweek, and they're still in the tie, and they're certainly looking forward to a Man City match, but they get to play that Wednesday, so they have a little bit more time. I expect they probably play as strong of a lineup as within reason, because they're going to clinch La Liga's crown in this match, basically. Espanyol have been okay, but have not been, I mean, they're not on Real Madrid's level, obviously, and I think they're going to have trouble hanging in this match, even with Real Madrid's backups. I'm curious to see if Benzema plays. I expect he will, because he seems to always play. But what's around him is important. I would expect Toni Kroos and Luka Modric to have the match off, and maybe Alaba in the back as well, because they're really going for Champions League, because La Liga is pretty much done already with a 14-point lead, I think, and Sevilla playing an extra match. When I look at Espanyol, they struggle to score goals. They're currently in this, I don't know if I've mentioned the number yet, getting 1.25 goals with all the juice right now. Maybe that falls to 1, But based on the way that Real Madrid catches money right until kickoff, I imagine it'll close 1.25, if not higher. Though it certainly looks like 1.25 is most likely as the closing number. I think Real Madrid will be playing backups, and Espanyol will be interesting in that way. But Espanyol scoring is going to be a big issue for me, and I don't know where they're going to score from. And that whenever Real Madrid scores that first goal and goes up 1-0, the second goal is much more likely than Espanyol getting back into it. And I think it's almost more likely that Real Madrid will get a second than Espanyol will keep it 1-0 to close. So that's going to be hard to want to back Espanyol, even what should be a rotated Real Madrid side that has their eyes on Champions League midweek of next week. Valencia then hosting Levante, coming off a loss in after extra time on a penalty shootout in Copa del Rey. They didn't really deserve it, I don't think, but we're playing pretty hard and I guess they had some good spells and certainly could have scored in one of their chances. Hugo Dora is awesome and has been great for them this season. Best bargain, I think, in La Liga, considering how many goals he scores and how I think they pay him like $3,000 a week or something. Levante on the other side, they are fighting relegation. Currently, Levante getting a quarter of a goal on the road, and they had last weekend off because they weren't playing because no one did. It was really reserved just for Copa del Rey and other Spanish leagues below them that were playing. Valencia are really not great. They had that good run to the cup final. And I think that puts their prestige a little bit higher than they deserve. So I'm interested in Levante getting a quarter, though they're going to have to go out and try to get points. That doesn't really change who they are because they want to score goals and really want to do that anyway. So I'm not as concerned about that one, but only getting a quarter at Valencia, which should have a pretty good crowd and should have pretty good respect considering the run the team made. I think there's going to be a lot of people there supporting them. So Levante will be fighting a pretty good physical team, or at least a team that's better than they are, and also a pretty big crowd, and only getting a quarter seems a little bit cheap to me. Next is Athletic Club hosting Atletico Madrid, currently pick'em, with more juice on Atleti on the road. They're trying to stay and fight to stay in the Champions League places. It looks pretty safe, but I mean, Real Betis are hanging around, and so are, I guess, Real Sociedad a little bit as well. Athletic Club, they are a counterattacking side. They want to basically sit back and then use their pace. And I really hope Atletico Madrid move to a favorite here because I want to play Athletic Club because I love them as an underdog. And I think that they can win this match, especially at Pick'em right now with all the juice on Atleti. It's possible that we get a quarter by the time this kicks off on Saturday evening in Spain. And I'm looking forward to it in the Basque Country because San Mamés will be rocking. That should be a good one. I don't know that Athletic Club have a really lot on their minds of what they're playing for, but they're a pretty proud bunch with all Basque players, as that's the rule. And I'm interested in them because I love them as an underdog. Moving to Sunday, Elche hosting Osasuna. Currently, Elche a pick'em with more of the juice on Osasuna on the road. Not a lot for me to do here. Would love to see who's an underdog if it even gets there. I don't really see a quarter coming up based on this number. Looks based on right now that Osasuna would be that favorite. And Elche certainly are dealing with a ton of striker injuries, which is a big problem because they don't really score a ton of goals. But Tete Morente down the wing has been awesome. And I think that Elche as a home underdog would be of interest to me if it gets there. Granada then hosting Celta de Vigo. Currently, Granada, Celta pick'em. A lot of pick'ems this weekend, which is not great for me as an underdog player. But anyway, Celta de Vigo on the road, a little bit of a favorite. Got a little more of the juice. I think Granada, they're fighting relegation. They're in trouble. Celta de Vigo, on the other hand, they're going to control the ball. They're going to push forward, and they're going to leave themselves open for Granada to attack. But Granada's offense is not great. They don't have a lot of pace besides Luis Suarez, the other one, not the one, the Uruguayan. This one's Colombian, I believe. But Celta, they're better. They're going to score goals. I think they're more likely to. And I don't know that I want to back Granada with a lot of pressure on them, even at home, because I don't really think that their home field advantage is really, or home pitch advantage is much. Rayo Vallecano then hosting Real Sociedad. Currently, Rayo, a quarter goal underdog at home. A pretty good result. Real Sociedad trying to fight their way into Champions League, or at least, I guess, secure their Europa League spot. I don't love Real Sociedad ever since they lost Oyarzabal. Their offense has been pretty quiet. It's really reliant on Andre Sorloth, who's not great. And Alexander Sorloth, excuse me. He's a big guy, but doesn't really like to head the ball and makes a lot of mistakes. He's a young player, but I think he's got a ways to go. And as a road favorite, I'm not very impressed. Now, the problem for Rayo is that they've been really bad, and I don't think beating Barcelona really changes my opinion on them, though it probably puts them in a better position to kind of go the other way for their next match. But Sociedad are not a road favorite that I'm really that scared of. So I'm interested in the home dog, I guess, gun to my head. Barcelona then hosting Mallorca on the Sunday nightcap, or night match, whatever. Most of the juice on Barcelona right now, as expected, looks like it's going to head towards 1 3/4, maybe even 2 by the time this one kicks off. And Barcelona have been playing so poorly that I'm very interested in Mallorca. They're not going to play an open brand of football. They're fighting relegation and trying to make sure that they stay in the league, which they look like they're in pretty good shape to do that. But who knows? There's a bunch of matches left. People can pick up points and crazy stuff happens down the stretch. Barca, I mean, maybe they bounce back, but we keep waiting for that to happen. Why would you after they flamed out of Europa League and lost to Cadiz and then also to Rayo? I mean, what a disaster. They were expecting to try to make a charge towards the top of the league. That was probably far-fetched. But I don't like them, and I like getting big numbers against them, even at Camp Nou, because the crowd hates their own team, basically. And moving to Monday, we have Getafe hosting Betis. Betis coming off a lot of partying, probably from winning Copa del Rey, because that's a huge, huge deal in Spain. And it's currently a pick 'em with a little more juice on Betis. And I think I'd look to go against Betis if they end up closing a favorite on the road, but I don't know that it'll get there by the time kickoff comes on Monday. Moving to Italy for Serie A, Cagliari hosting Verona, currently a pick 'em with more of the juice on Cagliari, who I thought played pretty well as an underdog last week and then capitulated and gave up a goal right at the end, right at the death, to a team in Genoa who haven't been scoring at all. I'm a bit surprised to see Cagliari with all the juice right now at Pick'em. And if they move to a favorite, I'll certainly be interested in Verona because they have an offense that I believe in. Their defense is certainly questionable, but Cagliari, who've been playing better, I don't know that they have really the offense to threaten Verona like Verona do to threaten Cagliari. So that likely would look like Verona being a team on the road that would probably control possession and have more chances. And that's what I would like as an underdog if it does get there. Napoli then hosted Sassuolo with a ridiculous collapse for them, which basically takes them out of the Serie A title race. I'm not sure that they really had a huge chance to win it, but it certainly didn't look good the way they lost to Empoli as a pretty big favorite. Napoli here are 1 1/4 goal favorite. Sassuolo had to play Juve midweek. That's an issue for their legs, certainly. And they want to play on the front foot and try to score goals, which is going to give Napoli plenty of opportunities. Certainly not a match that should be low scoring. Over under 3.5 on this one. So I imagine there's going to be a bunch of goals in this one. And I mean, Napoli certainly can score goals when they're playing well. At home, they've struggled to get results, though. And that's really what's kept them from being in the Scudetto race at this point. I think Sassuolo are a team that can threaten them, and getting more than a goal is definitely interesting to me. I'm not sure that right now I'm willing to commit to that, but we'll see where this number goes, and certainly above a goal on a team that can score is of interest. Sampdoria then hosting Genoa in a big rivalry, share the stadium. Genoa fighting to try to not get relegated, got a big 3 points at the end last weekend. Sampdoria have been so bad, and I mean, sure, probably would do anything they can to keep Genoa or to knock them into the Serie B. Where Genoa doing the other way, trying to bring Sampdoria and pull them back towards them in the relegation fight. I think Sampdoria are relatively safe, but it's a big match. Currently pick them, not much for me to do here, but I think I lean to Genoa because that win last week has at least showed a pulse where Sampdoria have been so bad. Spezia then hosting Lazio. Currently Spezia a 3/4 goal underdog at home. Most of the juice on Lazio on the road, maybe climbs to 1. Lazio played so well for the first half, took a lead, gave up an equalizer to Milan, and then gave up a late goal to Milan as well. It seemed like a week of late goals in Serie A, and unfortunately a lot were against the sides I was backing. But Lazio, I mean, it's hard to say why they, against a team with in an inferior fatigue situation, would play the way they did. But they're not a good defensive team, and the nice part for them is they're facing Spezia, who are going to play on the front foot and try to score goals, which I think is going to only open themselves up for more of Lazio to push forward. I think if Spezia got a full goal of insurance, it'd be a lot more interesting in that one. But until that hits, I'm probably not even looking at it. Moving to Sunday, Juve hosting Venezia. Currently Juventus a 1 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice, likely climbing to 2. Venezia have really fallen off the face of the earth, and fortunately I haven't been backing them a lot to watch that happen. But they look like they are. I think they've lost 8 straight, maybe 9 straight matches. They've been so bad. Lost to Atalanta, who had the only one that probably been a worse streak than they were entering this past weekend's matches. Juve with a match midweek, but they're way more used to that than most of the clubs in Italy. They certainly have like nothing available to them in the midfield right now, it seems, but they're still way better than Venezia, and things have gone wrong for Venezia when even from good situations. So I'm not looking to back them even at the +2 number that looks like it's coming. AC Milan then hosting Fiorentina. Currently Milan a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Maybe climb into a full goal, and that interests me because I want to back Fiorentina in that situation. Fiorentina's gotten a lot of respect. They had to play midweek, didn't go great for them. They've been playing a ton of matches, and that's really been kind of wiping out their legs, certainly. But getting blasted by Udinese midweek is not great, and certainly might even show some changes in the lineup because the manager wants to make sure he's finishing season on a high, and they're trying to fight for probably not a Champions League place, but a European position, and it's important to them. They've been getting a lot of respect from odds makers, so it's a little bit surprising to me to see Milan almost climb into a full goal favorite. I'll probably be on Fiorentina if that's the case, because I think Milan, they've shown they can score goals, but it's harder for them than I think it should be. And that's something I want to be against, especially if I get that full +1. Fiorentina have been scoring. Cabral's been good. They've seemingly moved on and did some addition by subtraction where it's like their attack got better when they sold Dusan Vlahovic. So good for them. And the market certainly reflected that so far. Empoli then hosting Torino. Currently Torino a road favorite. Pick them, but they have all the juice right now. We'll be looking at Empoli if they move to a quarter goal underdog. Torino with a crazy match in midweek, but that's a bad thing for their leg situation. They're going to play on the front foot and give Empoli opportunities, and Empoli have shown that they can score this year. So I'm interested in that, especially if it climbs to a quarter. That'll really, I guess, make it a real interest. Udinese then hosting Inter. Currently, Udinese a 1-goal underdog at home. They've been playing really well. Their defense isn't the same, but their offense has actually showed up, and that's a big deal for them as a club. Inter are, coming off a hysterical loss midweek, which really is going to affect them and might have cost them the Scudetto. I would expect they will be out on the front foot, as they usually are, because they play one of the most offensive attacking brands of football out there, but they're going to be pissed. They're going to be out for blood. We'll see if Handanovic is available. I imagine they'll be shooting him up or trying to get him in that goal, because the backup keeper made a huge miss kick that ended up basically losing them that match midweek. Udinese have been playing well, though, and getting that full goal of insurance at home is of interest. I don't know that the crowd's going to be that intense. It doesn't really seem like Italian crowds have really been doing that much this year. And getting one full goal is a lot, but ultimately Inter are going to score. Can't imagine Udinese is going to keep a clean sheet. So Udinese is going to have to score against Inter, which is going to be tough in a defensive setup basically the whole day. And they're going to have to keep and hang around with the Inter, and that's going to be tough to do. But getting a full goal at home is a lot. Roma then hosting Bologna. Currently Roma giving a goal and a quarter with all the juice on Bologna on the road. And they had that crazy win against Inter, and they were playing right with them. I don't know if it was deserved win, probably not, but they were hanging around and making it tough on Inter. Roma are going to have, they're fighting on two fronts right now, and that's a problem for them. Their defense has not been good all season. They're going to try to score goals, but they also have a big match in the Conference League they're thinking about, because if they win that title, then they get into Europa League, no problem. And I guess they have eyes on Champions League here in Serie A as well, but I don't like teams that are fighting on two fronts, because that means legs are going to be an issue, and Roma are not that talented or not that much better than the rest of Serie A. I realize Bologna are a mid-table side, but getting more than a goal is of interest to me. With all the juice right now, even if it falls to 1, I still think that's a really nice safety measure, or enough of insurance for me to consider and potentially play Bologna. It's very important to me that Arnautovic is playing, because he seems to be where the goals come from. I'm a little worried he might be resting and maybe not start this one, but if he's in the team, I think that makes it okay for me to back Bologna getting that full goal. And moving to Monday, Atalanta hosting Salernitana. Atalanta playing as badly as anybody, and Salernitana honestly playing really well, trying to fight their way to stay in the league. It seems like an unlikely thing, but they've been playing so well and putting up a bunch of points lately. Atalanta 1.75 goal favorite. All the juice on Salernitana right now, but even at 1.5, I think based on how poorly Atalanta have been playing, conceding 4 goals midweek to Torino is hilarious. Salernitana have been playing well, better form side of these two teams for sure, though clearly a lot less talented, but there's a lot of problems at Atalanta going on right now. Gasperini's probably not going to be around next year, it seems like, and they've lost a lot of players, sold a lot of players off, and they have an ownership change coming through. So definitely interested in the team that's fighting for something, where Atalanta are kind of wallowing and are nowhere near their expectations to potentially challenge for a Scudetto this season. Moving to Germany, we'll have the Bundesliga on Saturday. Arminia Bielefeld against Hertha Berlin. Arminia is at home. It's a pick 'em right now with more of the juice on Arminia. And this is the biggest match for relegation, I think, on the card. In Germany, bottom three clubs, only the bottom two are automatically relegated. So the third from bottom goes to a relegation playoff, and you get to play the third best team from the Bundesliga, the Zweite Liga, is the second league in Germany. That's a big advantage because a lot of the big clubs seem to stay. Armenia, pick them. There's not much for me to do here. I would love for Hertha, who played pretty well last weekend at a home game against Stuttgart, and really put them in a pretty safe spot. Not completely, but they brought in a firefighter to try to keep them up. He's been doing well, playing a grittier style with a bunch more younger players coming into the side as well. Armenia is a favorite, just doesn't seem to compute for me. So I'm looking to see if that one climbs, though I imagine it stays pick 'em. Borussia Dortmund then hosting Bochum. Dortmund, a 1.5 goal favorite. Bochum with all the juice on the road. And Bochum have not really been firing on all cylinders, I got to say, most recently, but they've gotten some good results. Dortmund coming off a tough refereed match against Bayern that saw them win Der Klassiker and celebrate their 10th consecutive title all in a row. That certainly can't make Dortmund feel great. Erling Haaland, I don't know why he's playing anymore. They should put him on ice and get his transfer bids coming in so he doesn't get hurt or something like that. Probably still will move on even if that happened. But regardless, Dortmund's defense has been so bad. The nice part is they have their big crowd behind them, whereas Bochum really are looking for a big crowd to support them. They're going to miss that. Not having that at home is a big problem for them. But getting a goal and a half going against the Dortmund defense that is so bad, and who knows about the motivation for Dortmund in this one. I'm interested in Bochum for sure. Next is Augsburg hosting Cologne. Currently, Augsburg a pick'em, but all the juice on Cologne on the road. Augsburg is falling their way into the relegation. They're trying to fight their way out. Cologne, meanwhile, trying to fight for Europe. We'll see what happens. Cologne look like they'll trend to a quarter goal favorite before this one kicks off, and that makes me interested in Augsburg. But they are a bad team. Cologne are going to have a lot of possession and will be firing balls and crosses into the box and trying to put the Augsburg defense under pressure where it will often crack. I'm not sure that I think Cologne is a deserving road favorite, but I'm not sure that I want to play Augsburg either. Mainz then hosting Bayern. Currently, Mainz a 1-goal underdog, which is really small to me, considering they struggle to score goals. Their defense is okay, but they're really just a physical team that kind of pushes teams around. Bayern will run circles around them, unfortunately. So maybe Bayern aren't playing their studs because they clinched. But ultimately, I feel like they are a team that does play and tries to earn points in every situation that they can. They probably might. I mean, Julian Nagelsmann did talk about potentially putting more youngsters into the lineup, and certainly we'll see what happens with Lewandowski's saga and whether he's leaving the club. I guess it's going to have to tell with lineups on this one and all the teams that will be clinching down the stretch, because Bayern did it pretty early and they should be really focused on the future, and we'll see what happens to that number. But certainly the number seems smaller than I would have expected. Stuttgart then hosting Wolfsburg. Currently Stuttgart a 0.5 goal favorite at home, which is a monstrously high number for a team that can't score. I mean, it was really surprising me that they were a favorite on the road at Hertha last weekend, though both those teams were not good. But Stuttgart crossing to a favorite made no sense, and they didn't score, and they lost the match, and it was pretty convincing that they were not a worthy favorite. So seeing this number out of whack doesn't make much sense to me. Wolfsburg aren't great, and they got plenty of problems themselves, but they can score goals where Stuttgart cannot. I know that Max Kruse is going to create some chances and will certainly score from a penalty kick. Stuttgart, I'm not sure I believe any of that. Kalajic, who was their tall header goal scorer last season, seemed to be pretty fortunate, but he's done nothing this year due to injury and a lot of other things. And Stuttgart should not be a 0.5 goal favorite. So I'm going to be backing Wolfsburg unless something crazy is happening and their whole team got hit with COVID. Though I really don't like their manager, but Florian Kohfeld's good at defending, and that's what they're going to do here probably. And they're better than Stuttgart. Hoffenheim then hosting Freiburg in the Saturday evening match, which is surprising for these two clubs. But it's a big deal for a fight for Europe. Currently, Hoffenheim a pick'em with all the juice right now at home. And I hope they move to a favorite. They've been a good home team, but they've been really struggling for weeks now. Freiburg, certainly with that extra match from the Pokal, that got them to the final was an issue, and maybe that suggests that they're not potentially going to play everybody, but they're a really deep side that are fine with playing whoever for 60 minutes, and the backup for 30 minutes doesn't really have much of a drop off and probably could start or would start the next match anyway. So I'm looking for Freiburg to climb to a quarter goal underdog and potentially play them, because I think they're a much better team than Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim can score goals, certainly, but have been dealing with a ton of injuries, and they're kind of in trouble, in my opinion. Moving to Monday, then for some reason, no matches on Sunday. I don't know, some sort of holiday or something potentially in Germany. In Deutschland, Leverkusen, a 1.25 goal favorite at home to Frankfurt with all the juice. I mean, it's an extra day of rest, I guess, for the Europa League teams. Maybe that's why they did it. But Frankfurt, their sights are set on keeping their advantage over West Ham and making it to the Europa League final. Leverkusen, on the other hand, they are 1.25 with all the juice, and they're scoring goals, but they're really not the same offense that they had been. Patrick Schick came back, but they don't have Florian Wirtz as a creator in the middle. Basically, no point guard to set up the big man up front, and that's a big problem, especially when you need to win by more than a goal. And this number looks like it's going to climb to 1.5 as well. So I'm not really sure what that is, but Frankfurt, they're probably playing big time backups. Maybe Evan Ndicka comes in because he was suspended for midweek, but I feel like they're going to be resting everyone they can for the Europa League, because they're pretty much out of Europe in the Bundesliga standings. And last but not least, in Germany, we have Borussia Mönchengladbach, a 0.5 goal underdog at home to RB Leipzig. Leipzig also going to be focused on the Rangers match next midweek or next Thursday, to be more correct. They're a better side. Probably, I think they're the second best team in Germany, and probably will be the ones that threaten, depending on, I guess, player sales, but they should be the team that threatens Bayern next year, more so than Dortmund, in my opinion. But going on the road, they haven't looked great. I mean, they had a tough loss to Union last weekend after playing them in the Pokal. They've had a ton of matches. Gladbach, though, are a disaster, and I probably should stop there because I don't want to back them. And so last but not least, we'll go through France before we wrap this one up. Lens currently a 1-goal favorite to Nantes. Nantes are pretty good, but Lens are going to be on the front foot, are going to attack the whole time, and Nantes don't really have – I mean, they have more of an attack than I think they get credit for. So that's a big number for me to see that full goal of insurance on that whole +1 on Nantes. So I'm going to look to that one and potentially back it, because they're a pretty good team. They have a solid goalkeeper, and they have more up front than I think they get credit for. And Lens, they're a good team, but having to win by 2 is a big ask. Rennes, the nightcap on Saturday, then hosts Saint Etienne. Currently, Rennes a 1.5 goal favorite, and they're fighting for continental for Champions League positioning right now to be in that playoff spot with Monaco, who's making a huge charge. Saint Etienne, meanwhile, are at the other end of the table, just trying to stay in the league. I think they're relatively close to safety, but certainly not. There's a lot of teams at the bottom that are all kind of circling each other. Rennes' offense has been so good that I don't think that fading 1.5 or taking 1.5 in Saint Etienne, who are really good at scoring on goals. Kalajdziak, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. He's French and Polish, and he can score goals for his own team for better than anybody that I've seen. That's something I don't want to deal with, because he's also good at giving penalties away as well. Moving to Sunday, Troyes hosting Lille. Currently, Troyes a 1/4 goal underdog at home. All the juice on the road team, Lille. And Lille with a good result last weekend, I think. If I remember correctly, they won. But they've been playing so poorly. I think they beat Strasbourg last week. But they've been so bad. Road favorite doesn't make any sense. Troyes fighting for their lives. They're going to defend like heck. And they're going to make it hard for Lille to score. So certainly not a lot of pretty things on the Troyes side. Ripart is a great scorer, though. And I don't believe in Lille as a road favorite. So that's of interest to me. Brest then hosting Clermont-Foot. Currently, Brest a 1/4 goal favorite at home. Lean to Clermont-Foot on the road. They're going to be on the front foot. I make that joke every week. But Brest aren't a great favorite. So I'm interested in the newly promoted side that's trying to stay in the league. Also, I just don't really believe in Brest as a favorite. So we'll always lean the other way. I'm not sure it's enough for me to want to play. Certainly at a half it would be, but I don't think it's going to get there. Montpellier then hosting Metz. Metz, bottom of the table, really trying to fight. Montpellier have been a disaster. I'm looking to see if this one hits 1, that full goal of insurance, because I think Metz have a lot more to play for. Montpellier have just been they're not in relegation fights, or they're not in European races, and they've really just seemed to completely fall. The train has fallen off the tracks. And as a big favorite, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So Metz, though they're a scary team to back, that's where I lean right now. Certainly +1 I would at the current 3/4. guess I'm still interested in that as well. Monaco then hosting Angers, currently the form side. Monaco's been the best team in Ligue for a while. They are 1.25 goal favorite with all the juice, maybe climbing to 1.5. Angers have been playing a little bit better, though they coughed up a 2-0 lead thanks to a ridiculous red card, second yellow. That's just what they do. Apparently, a lot of these teams that take big leads that are underdogs, a great position to win me a full bet, and then of course end up drawing. And I think they were a quarter goal underdogs. So that was rough. But Monaco are going to probably do whatever they want with them. I mean, Monaco's offense has not been very good for most of the season. I think a lot of that was starting the year off in the Champions League playoff spots, and that really zapped their legs. And they're playing Europa League matches as well, and that really put them in a tough position. I think from where I sit, Angers are the only way I'd look as an underdog at 1.25, maybe 1.5. But I don't know that I want to go against Monaco considering how well they've been playing, though. To be fair, their offense has not been what it was expected to be all season. Lorient then hosting Reims. Currently, Lorient a quarter goal favorite at home. They are an inferior side to Reims. They have more to play for, I guess, trying to get their way up the table, or Reims are pretty safe in mid-table. But Reims are in a position where they're selling off some of their good players, but have been playing. I mean, they've got a pretty deep squad of players that don't seem to be that different one to the next. And I like them, and they've been a great money maker to me all season. So I'm very interested in Reims as that underdog against a favorite like Lorient, who have some good attackers like Mofi and Loriente. But funny, this name is almost the team name, but slightly different. But their defense has not been good. And I think a draw is very likely here, and that would be profitable for a Reims backer. Next is Bordeaux hosting Nice. Currently, Bordeaux a 0.5 goal underdog with all the juice at home. Nice have been a disaster lately. They've been playing so poorly, but Bordeaux look like they're going down to Ligue 2, and they can't defend. Nice are going to challenge that because they really can't score well enough considering the talent they have in that program and their awesome manager, Christophe Galtier. I think Bordeaux is going to have to push forward to try to score goals, though, and that's a big problem. So I don't believe that happens. I guess I lean Bordeaux at home, but I'm probably going to want to stay away from them because they're going to have to push forward, and that's going to put an already terrible defense under major threat. And then the big one of the weekend, I think, Marseille and Lyon, the Olympique. I don't know exactly what the one's called, but anyway, Marseille currently a quarter goal favorite at home after a really poor goal to start the second half. I mean, coming from behind 2-0, coming back. I mean, what a roller coaster the Europa Conference League match was. And I think Sampaoli was playing the best team that he thought was going to set up to counterattack. It was working magically. They just couldn't score, then found themselves 1 and then 2-0 down, came back, tied it up before halftime. And then off the second half kickoff, they started with the ball and a bad back pass to the short back pass to the goalkeeper ended up in a goal for Feyenoord. And that was the last goal of the match. Lyon, on the other hand, didn't play midweek. They have not been playing well, and certainly see this as a match that they probably want to get some frustration out. Though who knows what's going on with Peter Bosch. He doesn't seem to be like a very good manager that doesn't really take very well anywhere. But Marseille currently are the quarter goal favorite with, I guess, an eye on the Conference League coming up. But certainly Marseille, they're in second in the table. This match is the priority because they want to finish second, so they don't have to go into that playoff next year, because that will put them, as Monaco saw, and under big trouble, or it's a big risk for them through this whole season. I think from where I sit, Lyon are the team I'm interested in as the quarter goal underdog, but Marseille should be going for this one. And there might be goals here. Currently over unders 2 3/4 with all the juice. So maybe that closes 3. So there should be some action, which then limits my interest in getting a quarter, because that means there's going to be a bunch of goals and it might be more lopsided. And certainly the chances of a goalless draw when you get the over unders higher and higher is limited. And that's ultimately, I think, what you want back in underdog is no goals scored. I think this one will have some goals, will be very interesting, and it'll be fun to watch. And Marseille should be going for it, and then probably worrying about Conference League with their backups when it comes, because this is what matters to them. So that will wrap up this episode. I feel like it went forever. I have almost no voice left, but thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm the real_G Warner on Twitter. We'll be live in just a few hours, waking up for these matches coming up. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, 45 minutes. Hey, that was a long time. Usually these are 35. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. have a great weekend. Follow me on Twitter, @thereal_G Warner. You'll see some bets coming through as soon as I make them. Hopefully right around kickoff. So if you're up, that they'll be on. And then thanks for following me wherever you are, on StreamYard, on Twitter, on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or on Instagram. Really appreciate everybody's support, and talk to you guys soon.